I was very pleased because, I mean, the whole thing, I mean, the album started with that jump start that the album begins with. That was my idea with the feedbacks, because I wanted to, I thought that, I told Morrissey, I think you should start this album in a way that isn't Smith's and that isn't Bedsit, whatever. You should start this album with a really very, very assertive feel to it, like quite aggressive. You know, the best defense is attack. And I remember talking about it quite clearly for quite a while. So I think it's Alsatian Cousin, I think it's called, the first track, and that begins with this jump start and this feedback from my Stratocaster. And so that riff and the whole thing I came up with, and the very sort of thunderous rhythm, which took a while to do. The whole thing, it just worked for me as an album, because it had every kind of texture and every kind of feel. It had a very nostalgic feel in Magdalen Street, and I can't remember the titles, but yeah, there were songs which were very kind of sad and thoughtful, and there were songs that were quite really in your face, and I liked that, and it gave me scope to do stuff that I wouldn't normally do on a Durutti Column album. It just made me do things I wouldn't normally do. It gave me the opportunity to do that musically, so I was very happy. Yeah. Every Day's Like Sunday was I did a chord sequence, which is a very basic chord sequence, and just kind of strummed along, and then Morrissey put a guide vocal over it. When I heard the lyrical content, I realised that the feel of it was not right. So I went back and redid the backing track, so that it's like basically I just layered guitars. So there was actually a build to it, and then I layered some string parts over it on a synthesizer, and just built it. So it had that, just so it would feel right. And so it was quite calculated, I suppose, which is something I hadn't really done before, but. I guess it worked because it was a success. So I think one of the things that makes Viva Hate some of the things that make Viva Hate so extraordinary are Stephen Street's production, the sounds that he got, especially guitar sounds. He is an amazing. If he's anything, he's a great engineer. He's one of the best engineers I've ever worked with, in terms of just a sound engineer. He's a genius. And the other thing that really makes it is, quite often when we do a backing track, I do a backing track, hearing like a verse and a chorus, and when Morrissey came in and he would listen to the backing track being recorded with his book of lyrics and stuff like that, and then he'd go away, then he'd come back and do a vocal, and the chorus would be where I thought the verse was, and vice versa. And he heard things in a very extraordinary way, and his phrasing was unusual, and you could never predict what his phrasing would be, or what his approach would be. He would kind of make he would kind of do a reconnaissance in a sort of guide vocal, but the final vocal was very clear in Morrissey's head when it came to do the final vocal, and it was absolutely clear, and he would do take after take after take, identical. It was absolutely identical. He knew exactly what he was going for. And I think that really is part of why it had such a strong identity, and I think that's what makes it. Sometimes when the first backing track was down, and Morrissey came and did a guide vocal, I would make adjustments, as I discussed earlier with Every Day's Like Sunday, when I realised the lyrical content, and this very similar thing happened with Late Night Magdalen Street, where I realised it was a very long, rambling, and quite sad and reflective thing. And in the end, I actually made us stop recording, because we were trying to record that at 11 o'clock in the morning, and I just said, let's leave that track. Let's just leave it. Let's come back at 2 o'clock in the morning, and have a few drinks and relax. Let's come back then. And we did that. We came and we recorded Late Night Magdalen Street. It was late night. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning. And if you listen to the track, I mean, the guitars aren't even in tune. It wasn't a technically great performance, but that wasn't the point. It was just to get the mood, because once I heard what Morrissey was actually singing, I realised it's a very serious and quite sad song, and I was trying to get that atmosphere, and also with all of the songs to try and get the atmosphere of the lyrics, and that was what my challenge was. That's what I was trying to do. It's like an exercise to see if I could get that. So that was kind of what I did.